Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I drop my kid off at school and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good morning, listeners. It is a lovely April 1st. Although it's a little cold, I have hat and gloves on, which one would prefer not to do in April. But feels like it's going to be a nice day. I bet by the afternoon it'll be even weather you can tolerate without a jacket. Given that it is April 1st, I am looking forward to sharing with you the results of last month's gameplay. Here at the top, I wanted to take a moment, though, to let you know April will probably be a less productive month in terms of pick up and deliver episodes. I am going to an academic conference for several days, and I am taking a trip to Iceland to help celebrate my wife's 40th birthday. Both of those are going to be very exciting, but will not leave much time for podcasting. So I will try to get a couple episodes done here at the beginning of the month, and then you probably won't hear from me again in the middle of the month. And then we'll have a couple at the end of the episode, at the end of the month. So that's what this month's publishing schedule looks like, assuming I find things to talk about. I was going to make an episode last week, and I just didn't really have anything to share. So we'll see if this month, this week turns out better. But it is literally one of my favorite things to do, to share the top of the stack episode and thinking about the next month's gameplays. So I thought I would share the roundup from March. So March 2019, overall stats. I played 80 plays of games. I played 44 different games last month. That makes a total of 194 plays so far this year of 89 games. At this rate, I guess I'm on target for about 800 plays this year, which sounds like quite a robust experience. Last year I was in the mid 600s, so it's definitely an uptick from last year's game playing. I would say a big part of that is that my wife just seems to be much more interested in playing games than she was last year, just in terms of casual participation in playing games. So I guess that's the main thing that I would see as part of the change so far. I did 5 playtests of our Rattlebox games with other people who weren't Rattlebox Games designers. My shelf of opportunity has not shrunk much, although I did do a lot of work on it. So at the very beginning of the whole deal, my shelf of opportunity was at 57. As of last month, it was at 56 after going up. Now I've got it down to 54, which makes it sound like I only played 2 games, but you'll learn that's not the case. My collection size, which I was trying to reduce this year, is up to 335 over 319 at the beginning of the year. And my most played game this month was Detective, a modern crime board game with 6 plays. Those of you who know that game know that you shouldn't be able to play it 6 times because it's a 5 campaign scenario, but we had one game of it where we played for like an hour and a half, and then we had to stop, and then we played the next day and finished the scenario. So I count that as 2 plays. 2 different sessions where we set up the game and play. It's 2 plays for me. So, jumping right into the top of the stack, thought I'd change it up and just tell you right away at the top of the episode here. I had 3 games on the top of the stack this month. We had Rakeholt, Detective, a modern crime board game, and Pocket Dragon. Then I also had grabbed a repeat from a previous month, Star Trek deck building game, The Next Generation. Those are my games that were on the top of the stack this month, and I'm pleased to point out I played all 4 of them. Oh yeah! I can't remember the last time that I even played 3, much less 4. Not this year, anyway. So, Detective I already talked about. My wife and I liked it quite a bit, although I will say it is... how do I articulate my thoughts on the game? The story is very interesting. The mechanisms are a little bit frustrating at times. As with a lot of these games, it doesn't feel like you have quite enough time. And we found the mechanism by which you gather evidence really frustrating. On 4 of the 5 cases, My wife and I solved the mystery enough to get what it's called a win. You have to do pretty badly to not get a win, and then actually all 5 we answered all the questions right. But we always lost. We got zero points, or at most 3 points out of between 6 and 12 for evidence, because we just couldn't figure out or get the right evidence together. So we'd solve the crime, but we wouldn't get the physical evidence we needed. And then on one of them, we had so much stress, we ended up losing. But it's very frustrating because we didn't even have the opportunity to put in the evidence. So, and part of it, I don't know if the game cascades, because the evidence that you log from case to case stays there. So I think if you miss crucial evidence in the first couple episodes, your chances of getting matches later are very poor, because you literally don't have the stuff you need to match with, and you're not allowed to go back. So I find that the more frustrating aspect of the game. That said, the mystery was really good and very involving. That the fact that I played this game 6 times in a month should tell you it's pretty involving. And we played the first one, we thought it was fine. The second one we thought was okay, although we lost. The third one we found very frustrating. Even though we won, we found the case itself really frustrating. But we decided to try it. That was last Friday night, actually, we played the third one. And then Saturday morning, we're like, should we redeem ourselves and play the fourth one? Like, yeah, we played the fourth one. We liked that enough. We're like, yeah, we're just going to double down. We had a lunch break. Then we came back in the afternoon and played the fifth one and finished the scenario. So overall, obviously, I really liked it. A good game and worth trying. I'd see if you could borrow it from somebody, probably. I probably wouldn't suggest buying it unless you have no access to it otherwise. But it's the kind of game where you don't break anything in the game, so you should be able to borrow it and give it back in good condition. So that's what I'm going to try to. I'm going to try to swap with someone who has Chronicles of Crime and see if I can do that. So anyway, I guess that's my very mini shooting from the hip. The other games I was trying to play this month are Reykholt, which I played Reykholt like 4 or 5 times. I really like that as well. A nice little Uwe Rosenberg game. Very focused, unlike, say, Agricola or A Feast for Odin, where there's lots of different things you could do. In Reykholt, you're just growing these veggies, and you're trying to get them in a series. Everybody's trying to do the same thing, so it's very much a tactical game rather than a strategic one, but really good. And I'm getting better every time. It also has, like Agricola, different sets of bonus cards, which change the way the game moves enough that it can be really fun. The one game where I did really, really well at it, I was playing with a couple new players who did not take my advice that the special cards were important. And even as I was using every opportunity I had to take them, I even left one turn where I think I had one already, and then I'd already made good use of it. And then it came around and I had the opportunity to get a second and I didn't. And I even said, I'm going to pass on taking the special card this round because you guys should really have them. And then neither of them took it. So I took it the next round and then I just walloped them. But that's what happens. But there are 5 sets of special cards. So lots of variety in the game because these change dramatically the way that you move tactically. So Reykholt, really fun. Then the third game is Pocket Dragon, which is a 2-player game from David Turkzy. It was a Kickstarter game. Cute little, it's sort of like Hanabi meets Memory with a timer. Pretty good. A fun little filler. It takes literally 6 minutes to play. And it's good. I've played it 3 or 4 times. And then finally, the repeat that I put on here this month was Star Trek the Deck Building Game. Star Trek the Next Generation, the deck building game. And that was pretty fun, actually. At the beginning, it was kind of slow. But once we got going, it was really fun. The main thing is, it does not feel very thematic because you actually are attacking other players in a way that you wouldn't ever do if you're in Starfleet. And you also can, like, take over other ships when you encounter them. So like you could be on a Starfleet ship and you encounter some angry Romulans and you can use diplomacy to take over their ship and then fly around in a Romulan ship. Or you encounter a Starfleet ship and you attack it. It doesn't make any sense. But it actually was pretty fun by the end. One of the scenarios in the game is a co-op scenario, and I think we will be playing that. So I kept the game. I'm going to keep it for a while yet. I don't think it's ever going to become a favorite, but it's definitely worth another play at least. So that's Star Trek deck building game. Next up, I want to share the first plays this month. It was a good month for playing new games for me. At the beginning of the month, I had played 19 new games this year. I got 15 new games played. So aside from the 4 I mentioned already, Detective, Rake Holt, Pocket Dragon, and Star Trek, the Next Generation deck building game, I have a bunch of other games that I've played. A lot of them I've talked about already, but I'll just review quickly what they are. Rake Holt, the Uwe Rosenberg game, I'll roll for it. Simple little dice game. Holding On, The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr. Pretty thematic game with frankly not great mechanisms, but pretty fun. We have Newton, which is an excellent Euro. Would enjoy playing that again at some point, but I don't know if I'll get to. We'll see. Transatlantic, I mentioned that already. Number 9, Quicks. Number 9 is a little tile puzzle game. Quicks is a nice little roll and write game. Takes about 10 minutes to play. Easy to teach. Excellent pocket game. Shipyard, I finally got to play the Vladimir Suchy game that I've been looking to play for a long time as part of my quest to play all of his games this year. I am pleased to say that I did get a hold of a copy of Underwater Cities. It was a late Christmas present from my mom, and it showed up in the mail. Late because of me, not because of her. It's a long story. But so that showed up in the mail. I hope to get that played this month. King Domino, which is a Spiel des Jahres either winner or nominee. It's a good family weight game, easy to teach, easy to play. A little too light for my taste. I hear that Queen Domino gives it a little more heft. I'd be interested in trying that at some point. Schrodinger's Cats was a game a friend of mine gave me. It's sort of like Skull. It's got a couple little variations on it, but a nice little bluffing game. And then Mystery of the Temples is a kind of pattern matching game, I guess. A tactical pattern matching game, we'll call it. And finally, My Village. I didn't really get to talk about My Village much yet on the podcast, but it's a game from Inka and Marcus Brand, a kind of sequel to their game Village. In Village, you are working with the other people in the village to make your family prominent in the story of the village. And as your characters get old and die, their lives get recorded in the center, in the book in the center of town. I haven't played that one. I hear it's very good. They released another game at the same time that they reprinted Village, and it's called My Village. It's the same theme, but it has slightly different mechanisms. And the idea is you're building your own village instead of building building a village with other people. And it's got a kind of sandboxy nature. I've only played the once, so I can't really speak very authoritatively about it, but it was fun. It was a nice game, and my son enjoyed it, which is a good treat. So that was My Village. Like I said, 15 new games played this month. Quite productive in that regard. I had one out of the dust play this month. That was Olympus. I talked about that in an earlier podcast, I believe. Olympus is a really interesting Euro, a bit too much Take That for my taste. So having played it again now, I think it's heading for the trade pile or the sale pile. So that's those are the plays. That's the playing report for March. Like I said, a very productive month. Not a lot of progress on my shelf of opportunity, which is what I'm going to talk about next. My shelf of opportunity started the month at 56 unplayed games and progressed to 54 unplayed games, which feels like I really didn't get much played. But the reality is I acquired a whole bunch of new games and I played some of them, and some of them went unplayed, but then I played a bunch more new games that were on my shelf. So while the total number of unplayed games on my shelf only went down by 2, about half of the games I played this month were from my shelf. I just also got a bunch of new games. Particularly, I had a couple interesting days at the Goodwill and a gift. So I have a copy of Clue: The Office, which I'm working on an academic project about The Office right now. So it makes sense that Clue would be that a board game version of The Office would be right up my alley. I also picked up a couple other sort of simple games that added to my collection size. It's hard to pass up a game that looks like it might be interesting when it's $2 at Goodwill. But at least as a hoarder, I'd like to say as a collector, but honestly, my collection's growing so fast just because I keep getting new games and not getting rid of games. So there it is. So the last thing I wanted to talk about today was my 10 for 10 challenge. As we've talked about every month, I'm doing I've got 3 challenges for myself, or maybe 4, I guess you could say. I have the 10 for 10 challenge for this year, my main hardcore challenge. In it, I am now 42% of the way complete. The leading game is Cerebria with 7 plays still. Also, Sagrada is up to 7 plays. I have 5 plays of both Betrayal Legacy and London 2nd Edition. And 6 plays of Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. We're on a break from that right now because I've got to pick up the next expansion. We've exhausted the box we're on. So, still working on that. The least played game is Legacy of Dragonholt. I'm thinking we're going to play that this summer. My goal will be to get my wife and daughter into a pattern where we play that once a week in the summer and kind of knock the game out at that point. Also, Gizmos, Kings of Erin, Steam, and Rampage are all 2 plays each. My alternate game is Welcome To, and that's up to 5. So right now, all things being equal, Welcome To will swap in for one of the other games. If I had to pick right now, I suspect Rampage doesn't have the staying power to make 10 plays. But we'll see. My organic challenge, or my normal challenge, is one where I don't have the 10 games. I did not have the 10 games picked out at the beginning of the year, but rather I'm making an effort to make sure I have 10 games set. And as we go along, some games will kind of get into the lead and I will make an effort to close them out. For example, Wingspan, I got up to 12 plays now. It only counts for 10 on the 10 for 10. I'm at 38% altogether. So Wingspan has 10, Codenames Duet has 7, Rakeholt got 5 plays. I have 3 each for Scarabia and Eminent Domain, and then 2 for Space, Anachrony, Agricola, Dude, and Innovation. So a long way to go for a lot of those. My guess is Dude will not make the 10 list. That's a fun party game, but I don't see myself playing it 10 times. Azul also has 2 plays this month, so I could see that making it as well. There are a number of other games that could be on the list at this point. We'll just have to sort of see how the family shakes out. It wouldn't surprise me if once we start the next campaign of Arkham Horror, we knock out 10 games of that. That seems quite likely. So Arkham Horror, the card game, could make the 10 for 10. I don't know if I have to make a rule that last year's 10 for 10 can't include games. I don't know, if a game's been on a previous 10 for 10, is it allowed to be on one? Probably not. I should double check that I don't have any. Leftovers from last year, I'm only 10% complete on this. Via Nebula and Matainai and Ex Libris are all at 0 out of 5 each. I've completed my 2 plays of Roll for the Galaxy and needed to finish and I actually played 1 more. And then Stuffed Fables, we have 2 plays left of that. So, plenty left to play in order to get all my challenges done. And then my last challenge was my Great Designer Challenge for the year, is my Vladimir Suhi Every Game in My Collection challenge. And every game in my collection is, as far as I know, every game he's published. I have played 2 games now. We played League of 7 and we played Shipyard. I'm actually looking to play Shipyard again soon because it was good enough that I want to play it again, and I'm afraid if I don't play it again, I'm going to lose a lot of the rules and the strategy, and I'll have to start over. So I think April 9th, I'm going to play another round of Shipyard. So for April, my April top of the stack is a bit more challenging. Underwater Cities is the first game. I suspect that will be doable. I'm very motivated to try that out. Worst comes to worst, I could play the solo game of it. I have a game I found at Goodwill a long time ago. It was a Kickstarter game. It looks kind of silly. Thought my kids might like it. It's called Toboggans of Doom. I want to get that played this month so I can decide if it's worth keeping. I also have a Kickstarter game that showed up a while back called A Thief's Fortune, which I think looks delightful. I want to give that a try as well. And then finally, another game I found at Goodwill, Killer Bunnies and the Journey to Jupiter. My son said he thought that looked interesting, and so I would like to get that played. Again, to decide whether it's worth keeping or not. You know, when you buy a game for $2, one play is fine. And if it wasn't worth keeping, then, you know, you can return it to Goodwill or give it away or something. I don't know. That's my plan. So I've got a couple games on there that I really just want to decide if I want them in the collection. I'm going to try to really do that pretty aggressively here because I think 330 games is too many. I think getting a collection under 300 would be plenty and would show some commitment to actually managing my collection a bit rather than just letting it bloat and grow. So we'll see how that goes. But that's kind of where we're at now, and where we're going. So how did you do on your top of the stack? Did you make plans this month? The best place to talk about that is over on our Board Game Geek forums. Guild 3269 is the pick up and deliver forum. We actually have a thread where people specifically report on their top of the stack. I'm gonna have to go in and post my update there today. I would love to hear your update, see how you're doing on your plays if you're making goals. I'd also be interested to hear if you've played any of the games I played and what you thought of them. So thanks for checking in and listening. Thanks for joining me on my walk today. I look forward to next time we chat, and until then, I hope your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.